ever looked at a pile of old bottles, scraps of fabric, or broken cups and thought they were useless? What if I told you that those forgotten items could become the most beautiful part of your garden? In today's video, we'll uncover DIY trash garden ideas that turn what others throw away into something truly inspiring. Welcome to Nature Nest, a space where creativity meets sustainability. This video is packed with ideas for borders, fences, patios, and backyard makeovers, and we've added timestamps so you can jump straight to the parts you need. Feel free to comment if you have questions or share your own ideas. And before we dive in, I want to say this, maybe to you, I'm just another voice on your screen. But behind this content is a real story and a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it keeps this dream alive. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel. You're helping hope grow, one click at a time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for seeing me. In the heart of a modest garden, color breathes life where once only soil lay quiet. Along the edges of flower beds, recycled glass bottles stand upright, each one painted in vibrant hues, a rainbow rising gently from the earth. What was once discarded, forgotten trash, now forms a living border that frames the beauty of blooms. When sunlight strikes their glossy coats, they shimmer like stained glass, casting a playful glow upon chrysanthemums and asters swaying nearby. It is a garden that whispers of second chances. Every bottle, once dull and unwanted, now sings with a coat of fresh paint, telling a story of transformation. They form a rhythm along the garden path, a melody of colors guiding the eye through marigolds and anemones, through sedum that catches the last warmth of autumn. Their presence is not grand, but humble, a reminder that beauty does not demand perfection, it thrives in renewal. Children passing by often pause, their eyes widening at the rainbow gleaming at ground level. Neighbors slow their steps, curious at how simple bottles can dance so brightly in the afternoon light. In this small space, what was once junk has become art, and what was once overlooked has been cherished anew. The rainbow edging does more than decorate, it anchors the garden with joy. It marks the boundary between the ordinary and the enchanted, between a small patch of earth and a sanctuary alive with color. Under the quiet shade of fruit vines and farmhouse fences, it becomes a symbol that even in the smallest backyard or tiniest patio, beauty can be reborn with just imagination, paint, and care. Here, among blossoms and butterflies, the bottles stand not as trash, but as guardians of color, silent, enduring, and endlessly inspiring. Along a quiet fence, the past comes alive in delicate porcelain. Old teacups, once chipped and forgotten in cupboards, now dangle like jewels upon rustic wooden boards. Each cup is different, some painted with faded roses, others shining with soft enamel hues, yet all united in their newfound purpose. No longer vessels of tea, they have become ornaments of the garden, charms that capture light, color, and memory. When the sun rises, golden beams strike their curved surfaces, and the cups glow softly against a backdrop of climbing vines. Below, chrysanthemums bloom in clusters, marigolds ignite like sparks of flame, and asters stretch toward the sky. The cups, mismatched and imperfect, create a rhythm across the fence, a line of quiet guardians watching over petals and leaves. There is a whimsical grace to their presence. Each cup cradles a secret, a tuft of moss, a sprig of daisies, or simply the echo of laughter once shared over tea. Visitors pause, charmed by the sight, their eyes drawn to the play of colors against the white of a picket fence or the warmth of rustic wood. In this small garden, the ordinary has become extraordinary, stitched together with imagination and care. The fence, once plain and unremarkable, now tells a story of renewal. It is not grandeur that makes it beautiful, but the gentle touch of repurposed objects, things once considered trivial now singing with fresh life. In every teacup, there is a whisper of nostalgia, a reminder that even in a modern backyard or tiny patio, we can weave the past into the present. Here, amid blossoms and butterflies, the fence becomes more than a boundary. It is a gallery of small wonders, a tapestry of colors and textures. And as the breeze rustles the leaves and the cups sway gently, the garden hums with a truth simple yet profound. Beauty often hides in what we nearly discard. Beneath the quiet shade of a pergola, a story of simplicity and warmth unfolds. Wooden poles, once plain and unadorned, are now clothed in strips of fabric salvaged from forgotten corners. Each piece carries its own history, a curtain that once framed a window, a dress faded with time, a cloth that bore the marks of many hands. Together, they wrap around the posts, softening the edges, turning timber into a canvas of texture and color. As the breeze stirs, the fabric sways gently, whispering against the wood. Their hues, soft beige, earthy terracotta, faded blue, and gentle pastels, blend seamlessly with the blooms below. Chrysanthemums and asters nod in agreement, marigolds burn bright in the sun, and sedum stretches with quiet resilience. Vines climb the posts, weaving into the fabric, creating a partnership between nature and handcraft. Beneath this canopy, the world slows. A wooden bench waits, offering rest beneath a shade that is both humble and inviting. Neighbors passing by glimpse the pergola and smile, charmed not by grandeur, but by the ingenuity of turning scraps into beauty. It is a farmhouse corner born not from expense, but from care, imagination, and the quiet joy of repurposing what was once neglected. Here, conversations linger longer, tea tastes richer, and laughter feels softer. The pergola becomes more than structure. It is a gathering place, a sanctuary where time feels generous. It frames the seasons. In spring, it welcomes new blossoms. In summer, it cools with shade. In autumn, it glows with the colors of chrysanthemums. In winter, it waits patiently beneath the silence. The fabric-wrapped poles remind us of a simple truth: beauty is not always new, nor is it flawless. Sometimes, it is woven from fragments of memory, tied together with vision and care. In this garden, scraps have become art, and what once seemed ordinary has been transformed into something quietly magical. And so the pergola stands, rustic, colorful, and endlessly comforting, a testament that even the humblest of cloth can hold a place in the poetry of a garden. the garden wall, a quiet miracle takes flight. What once were discarded bottles, dull, ordinary, and destined for waste, have been reborn as butterflies. Cut with patient hands, painted with care, they now spread their wings against the backdrop of wood and stone. Their colors are vivid, deep blues like twilight, golds as bright as morning sun, and purples that recall fading dusk. In the stillness of the yard, they seem alive. Sunlight strikes their wings, and the plastic glimmers like stained glass. At a glance, they appear ready to lift into the sky, joining the marigolds and asters blooming below. Chrysanthemums nod gently in the breeze, echoing the butterflies' hues, while real bees and insects flit between blossoms, blurring the line between art and nature. This wall, once plain and unremarkable, now sings with joy. Children pause and stare, tracing the arc of painted wings as they climb upward like a rainbow in motion. Neighbors smile, touched by the ingenuity of turning something broken into beauty. In this small transformation, the garden gains not just color, but spirit, a story of renewal stitched onto its surface. The butterflies symbolize freedom, resilience, and rebirth. Each one was crafted from what others might throw away, proof that creativity can give waste a second life. Together, they form a dance of permanence, frozen yet full of motion, reminding us that even in the smallest spaces, a tiny patio, a narrow yard, a modest backyard wall, there is room for wonder. Under the pergola's shade or beside the farmhouse fence, this butterfly wall glows as a backdrop to daily life. Morning light sets it ablaze, evening shadows soften its edges, and in every season, it remains a constant celebration of color. Here, the plastic has shed its past, becoming part of the garden's poetry. Not as trash, but as wings. Not as waste, but as art. In a quiet corner of the garden, flowers bloom that will never wither. They rise from the earth not by seed, but by the hands of imagination. Old gears, forgotten rods, and pieces of scrap metal, once deemed useless, have been reshaped into blossoms of iron. Painted in colors that echo nature, they stand proudly beside chrysanthemums and marigolds, bridging the line between the living and the everlasting. Each sculpture holds a story. A spoon becomes a petal, a gear turns into the heart of a daisy, and twisted rods unfurl as stems reaching upward. In their rebirth, they remind us that beauty often hides in the overlooked, waiting only for vision and care. Their surfaces shine under the sun, their painted hues catching the light like stained glass. Birds perch upon them, butterflies dance around them, as if the garden itself has accepted these flowers as its own. Visitors pause in wonder, their eyes shifting between the metal blossoms and the real ones nearby. At first glance, they blend seamlessly, only upon closer inspection does the secret reveal itself. It is art disguised as nature, or perhaps nature inspiring art. Either way, it brings joy, a burst of surprise in a humble backyard or tiny patio. The sculptures do more than decorate, they anchor the garden with resilience. Where real blooms may fade with the season, these creations endure, carrying color through autumn winds and winter's hush. And yet, they never overshadow the living plants beside them. Instead, they celebrate them, amplifying the garden's vibrance with a touch of whimsy and permanence. In a farmhouse yard or a rustic gazebo corner, these junk metal flowers become more than ornaments. They are reminders that what is discarded can rise again, not as waste, but as wonder. That in every forgotten fragment, there lies a possibility to bloom anew. And so, among petals of steel and blossoms of earth, the garden tells its story, one of renewal, imagination, and the timeless pursuit of beauty. At the edge of the garden, harmony is found in the simplest of unions, bamboo and glass, nature and craft. Side by side, they form a border that feels both timeless and inventive. The bamboo, with its golden grain and quiet strength, stands beside bottles reborn in paint and color. Together, they create a rhythm, a song of earth and human hands woven into the soil. The bottles gleam under the sunlight, their glossy surfaces catching the eye like scattered jewels. Painted in pastels of lavender, sky blue, and sunflower yellow, they echo the flowers that bloom nearby, asters swaying in the breeze, marigolds burning with fire, chrysanthemums glowing with dignity. Between them, the bamboo adds balance, its natural tones grounding the vibrancy with quiet grace. This edging is more than decoration. It is a story of balance, where recycled meets organic, where the hand of the maker meets the hand of nature. Each bottle once held water or wine, forgotten and cast aside, each bamboo stalk once part of a grove, now lending its strength to the garden. Together, they remind us that beauty often lies in partnership, in blending differences into something whole. Visitors walking the pathway pause to trace the border with their gaze. They smile at its playful colors, admire its rustic charm, and perhaps wonder how such ordinary materials could create something so striking. In a tiny patio, a small yard, or a wide farmhouse garden, this edging transforms space into sanctuary. As twilight settles, the bottles shimmer faintly, holding the memory of the day's light, while the bamboo stands steady like a quiet guardian. Season after season, they endure, painted glass retaining its brightness, bamboo weathering with dignity. Here, at the garden's edge, beauty whispers softly, that even in the simplest of materials, there lies the power to enchant, to renew, and to turn boundaries into art. In the heart of the garden, the gazebo becomes a lantern of memory. Hanging from its wooden beams, a chandelier of cups sways gently in the breeze. Each teacup once served its purpose at tables long forgotten, some chipped, some faded, others mismatched in pattern, yet here, they shine anew. Upside down, they dangle like ornaments, cradling tiny lights that glow at dusk. The warm shimmer spills downward, pooling softly on the wooden table below. Around it, chrysanthemums open their petals to the fading light, asters lean gently toward the glow, and marigolds burn like little suns. The air hums with evening calm, a quiet symphony of crickets and rustling leaves. The chandelier tells a story of repurposing and imagination. Cups that once carried tea now carry light. Once hidden in cupboards or destined for the trash, they now illuminate laughter, conversation, and rest. Their colors, some pastel, some porcelain white, others hand-painted with roses or stripes, create a patchwork of charm, a reflection of lives intertwined. Under this glow, the gazebo transforms into sanctuary. Neighbors gather for evening tea, families linger longer after meals, and children stare in wonder at the tiny lights shining from cups. There is whimsy in the sight, a gentle reminder that joy often hides in the simplest of ideas. As night deepens, the chandelier glows brighter, standing as a beacon of warmth against the dark. The garden becomes a stage where shadows dance softly on the gazebo's beams, where blossoms hold the light like jewels. Even when seasons shift, spring's freshness, summer's abundance, autumn's gold, or winter's hush, the chandelier endures, carrying its light faithfully. It is more than decoration. It is a bridge between past and present, between the ordinary and the magical. Each cup holds a fragment of history, and together they weave a tale of renewal. Here, in the soft glow of recycled cups, the garden becomes not just a space, but an experience, one where imagination lights the night, and beauty is poured anew, one teacup at a time. Along the edges of a quiet patio, the sea finds its echo in glass. Blue bottles, once ordinary vessels, now stand upright in the soil, forming a border that ripples like waves caught in sunlight. Their hues shift from deep cobalt to pale aqua, a gradient that recalls the ocean's depth and horizon. When the sun strikes, they glimmer as if water itself had been captured and set into the garden. Within this border, flowers bloom in radiant harmony. Marigolds glow like little suns rising above the sea, chrysanthemums spread their layered petals with dignity, and asters scatter stars across the garden floor. Together they create a dance of fire and water, warm blossoms cradled by cool glass. The edging is more than structure, it is memory. It speaks of distant shores, of waves breaking gently on rocks, of skies meeting sea in endless blue. For those who sit on the rustic wooden chair nearby, the patio becomes a place of transport, not away from home, but deeper into it, where imagination flows as freely as the tide. Neighbors pause at the sight, charmed by the way light plays across the bottles. Children run their fingers along the edges, marveling at the glow, as if the border itself were alive. In every season, the bottles keep their shimmer. In spring, they catch the fresh light. In summer, they blaze under the sun. In autumn, they deepen like twilight seas. And in winter, they hold the memory of color when the garden grows still. What was once waste is now wonder. Bottles that held nothing but emptiness are reborn as guardians of the garden, standing side by side in strength and beauty. They remind us that even the smallest detail, a line of glass along the earth, can shape how we see and feel a space. Here, in the gentle marriage of ocean hues and garden blooms, the patio becomes not just a corner of the yard, but a seascape of color and calm. A reminder that beauty, like the sea, is boundless, and sometimes, it begins with the simplest of things. In the garden's quiet corners, humble pots wear new garments. Strips of cloth, once curtains, aprons, or scraps of forgotten fabric, now embrace the rough edges of terracotta, softening their form with farmhouse charm. Each pot becomes unique, dressed in linen faded by time, in cotton pattern with checks or flowers, in colors muted yet warm. Bound with jute rope, they stand as quiet testaments to care and creativity. Inside them, blossoms rise with renewed pride. Marigolds flare like suns, chrysanthemums unfold with layers of grace, asters scatter stars, and sedum stretches upward with calm strength. Together, they turn the wrapped pots into more than containers. They become vessels of memory, carrying both the history of cloth and the freshness of new growth. The scene is simple, yet enchanting. A bench in the backyard holds a row of these pots, each one telling its own story. A plaid cloth whispers of farmhouse kitchens, a floral scrap recalls summer dresses, a linen strip speaks of windows once open to breezes. Now, they gather here, side by side, reborn with soil, roots, and blossoms. Neighbors pause when they see them. Their eyes linger on the unexpected marriage of fabric and clay, charmed by the warmth it adds to the garden. Children touch the cloth, curious at how soft texture meets solid earth. It is not luxury that delights them, but the way ordinary things, the overlooked and the leftover, can be reborn as beauty. Through the seasons, the cloth may fade, but the charm endures. In spring, the pots welcome new seedlings. In summer, they overflow with color. In autumn, they glow with mums and marigolds. In winter, they stand patiently, wrapped still in their fabric coats. Here, among vines and fences, these cloth-wrapped pots whisper a gentle truth. Beauty does not always come from the new. Sometimes it comes from what is carried forward, reimagined with love. In this farmhouse garden, scraps of fabric find purpose again, turning plain pots into poetry. And as sunlight falls across them, casting soft patterns on soil and petals, the garden breathes with warmth, a reminder that the smallest touches often bring the greatest joy. In the garden, a family of little creatures waits, not of fur or feather, but of paint and imagination. Plastic bottles, once empty and forgotten, have been reborn as playful animals. A cat with painted whiskers cradles marigolds in its rounded back. A rabbit planter, ears tall and cheerful, carries asters that spill like soft fur. A puppy, bright-eyed and smiling, guards a tuft of sedum as if it were a treasured toy. They line the fence, each one unique, each one bursting with color. At first glance, children laugh in delight, rushing to greet them as though they were pets waiting patiently in the garden. Their painted eyes sparkle under the sun, their shapes familiar yet whimsical, blurring the line between plaything and planter. The flowers within them add to their charm. Golden marigolds glow from a piglet's back, chrysanthemums bloom like crowns for a panda, while anemones nod gently inside a fox's belly. Together, they form a parade of life and joy, each planter telling a story of what once was waste now cherished as wonder. These animals do more than hold soil. They invite imagination into the garden. Children learn that bottles can be more than trash. They can carry beauty, nurture life, and spark laughter. Adults, too, find themselves smiling at the sight, reminded of the gentle magic hidden in repurposing, of how creativity turns limits into possibilities. Season after season, the animal planters remain, refreshed with new blooms, their painted bodies standing bright against farmhouse fences and cottage walls. In spring, they cradle seedlings. In summer, they overflow with blossoms. In autumn, they glow with late flowers. In winter, they stand patiently, waiting for warmth to return. In every corner they occupy, they whisper a soft truth. Joy is not always grand. Sometimes it is painted on the back of a bottle. Sometimes it blooms from soil inside a piglet planter. And in this garden, joy walks side by side with imagination, brightening every step. Here, where laughter mingles with blossoms, the garden becomes a place not only of growth but of play, where even the smallest scraps can live again as the cutest companions of color. As twilight falls, the garden begins to whisper. Along the pathway, soft lights flicker from lanterns made not of stone or brass, but of bamboo and glass. Bamboo, cut and hollowed, forms the frame, simple, strong, and rooted in nature. Inside, recycled glass bottles, once ordinary and discarded, now cradle the light like sacred vessels. Together, they cast a glow that feels timeless, gentle, and serene. Each lantern is small, yet its presence is profound. The glass softens the flame, bending light into hues of amber and rose. Shadows stretch across the gravel path, moss glistens under the glow, and flowers nearby, chrysanthemums, marigolds, asters, open like stars reflecting the lantern's quiet fire. A breeze passes, stirring the leaves, and the lanterns answer with a trembling shimmer. This space feels alive with balance. The lanterns are not grand or ornate, but they do not need to be. Their beauty lies in simplicity, in the honesty of materials reborn with purpose. Bamboo once grew tall in a grove, glass once carried water or wine. Now they work together, illuminating a garden with grace. Visitors pause, their steps slowing as they walk the path. Some bow instinctively, as though entering a shrine. Children gaze in wonder at the glowing jars, their imaginations alight with stories of spirits and stars. For a moment, the world feels hushed, held in the soft rhythm of lantern light. Through seasons, the lanterns remain faithful. In spring, they shine beside cherry blossoms. In summer, they glow against lush green. In autumn, they echo the gold of chrysanthemums. In winter, they stand like guardians, casting warmth against the cold. They are not just lights, but keepers of memory. They remind us that even in broken glass and cut bamboo, there is possibility for renewal. They tell us that beauty can be born from what we already hold, waiting only for vision and care. And so the garden lives not only in color, but in light, small lanterns guiding the way, weaving poetry with every flicker. A place where bamboo and glass become more than objects, where simplicity becomes sacred, and where the garden glows with quiet, enduring magic. At the garden's threshold stands a gate, humble in wood yet rich in story. Once plain, it has been dressed in accents of forgotten things, scraps of metal, bottle caps, wood fragments, and broken tools. What was once rust and rubble has become art, transformed into blossoms of color and patterns of whimsy. The gate no longer opens only to a yard, but to a world where imagination gives junk a second life. Sunlight glints off painted gears shaped into suns, while old spoons curve gracefully as petals in a flower. Bottle caps, polished and brightened with paint, sparkle like tiny jewels against the wooden frame. Ribbons of fabric, faded yet soft, flutter in the breeze, lending movement to the stillness. Around the gate, chrysanthemums and marigolds burst in bloom, their natural colors echoing the recycled art above. Each piece tells a tale of renewal. A hinge that once swung doors now forms the heart of a flower. A discarded glass bottom becomes the center of a mosaic. Even scraps that once lay forgotten have found a place in the garden's welcome. The gate is no longer merely functional, it has become an expression of care, of vision, of joy found in what others overlook. Visitors pause at the entrance, charmed by its unexpected beauty. Children trace the shapes of the metal flowers, laughing at the bright colors. Neighbors smile, surprised that something so ordinary, even broken, could greet them with such warmth. The gate, in its rustic attire, teaches softly, beauty does not demand perfection, it thrives in reinvention. Through seasons, the gate endures, in spring, framed by fresh shoots, in summer, glowing with full blossoms, in autumn, harmonizing with golden leaves, in winter, standing as a reminder of color even in quiet. Here, the junk accents serve not as reminders of waste, but as proof of imagination's grace. They whisper to all who pass through, welcome to a place where nothing is wasted, where even the simplest fragment can bloom again. And as the gate swings open, one feels the truth, beauty lies not only within the garden, but in the very way we choose to enter it. Above the garden's heart, fabric moves like water caught in air. Strips of cloth, once forgotten in cupboards and closets, now stretch across the beams of a pergola, draped into waves that ripple gently in the breeze. Their colors are soft and soothing, lavender like twilight skies, pale yellow like morning sun, sky blue like distant horizons. Together, they form a canopy that transforms light into poetry. Sunlight filters through the cloth, painting the patio in shifting patterns. Shadows soften on the wooden table below, where vases of chrysanthemums glow in autumn's warmth. Asters lean gently toward the filtered beams, marigolds burn brighter against the shade, and sedum rises with quiet strength. Around the pergola, vines climb steadily upward, intertwining with fabric as though nature itself wishes to join in this creation. The fabric ceiling does more than shade, it invites peace. Beneath its waves, conversations linger, laughter flows more freely, and silence feels like rest instead of emptiness. The air beneath carries a softness, as though even the wind has learned to slow down in respect for the scene. Each piece of cloth holds memory, a curtain that once swayed in a farmhouse window, a sheet that once held dreams, a dress that once carried joy. Now, together, they serve anew, sheltering flowers and people alike with gentle beauty. Visitors marvel at the ingenuity, pausing to touch the fabric, to watch it dance against the sky. Through the seasons, the ceiling waves remain. In spring, they welcome blossoms beneath their shade. In summer, they cool the patio with their soft ripples. In autumn, they echo the golds and reds of falling leaves. In winter, they wait patiently, holding color against the gray. Here, the pergola becomes more than structure, it becomes sanctuary. It shows that with imagination, scraps can rise into art, and the simplest of fabrics can hold the grandeur of the sky. And so, as the day ends and the fabric shimmers in the last light, the garden speaks a quiet truth: beauty is not always built from the new, but from the care we give to what we already hold. Scattered fragments, once silent in drawers and cupboards, have found a second life beneath the open sky. Broken cups and saucers, chipped plates, and shattered porcelain, each piece too small for its old purpose, yet too beautiful to be forgotten, now joined together to create a mosaic that glimmers with memory. Across the garden pathway, the shards form a flowing tapestry. Blues echoing summer skies, yellows recalling morning sun, pinks and roses whispering of shared tea and laughter long past. Together, they create swirls and blossoms underfoot, guiding each step like a gentle story written in color and pattern. Flowers rise proudly along this path of fragments. Marigolds flare like golden fire, chrysanthemums spread their layered crowns, asters scatter stars across the soil, while sedum leans with quiet strength. Above them, butterflies pause as if mistaking the mosaic for real petals, dancing between glass and bloom. The mosaic is more than art, it is testament. Each broken piece, once considered waste, now contributes to a whole greater than itself. They remind us that what is fractured is not always finished, that in hands willing to see beauty, even shards can shine. Visitors tread carefully, marveling at the glimmer beneath their feet. Neighbors pause, their eyes wide with surprise at how brokenness has become brilliance. The pathway changes with the light. Morning sun makes the colors glow softly, like dew on petals. Afternoon brightness sets them ablaze in a dance of fire and glass. Evening shadows deepen their tones, like a painting shifting moods with the day. Through rain and through frost, the mosaic endures, carrying its colors through every season. It is not perfection that makes it beautiful. It is the way each fragment, no matter how small, holds value within the whole. Just as the garden grows from seed and soil, so too the mosaic grows from memory and renewal. And so, as feet walk this path, they walk not only on broken porcelain, but on stories reborn, on a truth quiet yet powerful, that in every fracture lies the possibility of new beauty. Garden breeze, a dance begins. Bottles once heavy with emptiness now rise on metal stems, transformed into wind spinners that turn with the gentlest sigh of air. Their painted surfaces, pastel blues, greens, and pinks, catch the sunlight, scattering fragments of color like rainbows across the flowers below. Each spin whispers of renewal, of how even discarded glass can return to life in motion and light. Around them, chrysanthemums bloom with layered dignity, asters scatter stars across the soil, and marigolds burn with fire against the green. Together with the spinning bottles, the garden becomes alive with rhythm, petals swaying, glass turning, air flowing in harmony. It is a symphony of movement, created not with grandeur, but with imagination and care. The spinners are more than ornaments. They are reminders that beauty often lies in motion, in change, in the willingness to be transformed. Each bottle, once forgotten, now holds purpose, no longer silent, but singing with every turn. Their rotations trace invisible circles of joy, their reflections painting fleeting colors on fences, benches, and wandering butterflies. Neighbors pause, enchanted by the sight. Children run toward them, laughing as they try to catch the spinning colors. In the quiet of evening, as the sun dips low, the spinners glow softly, their glass holding on to the day's last light before surrendering it to dusk. Even in stillness, they stand like sentinels of color, waiting for the next breeze to bring them to life again. Through the seasons they endure. In spring, they spin beside fresh blossoms. In summer, they shimmer against clear skies. In autumn, they whirl among golden leaves. In winter, they stand tall, promising color even when the world grows pale. They tell a simple truth, that nothing is too broken or too ordinary to be reborn. With paint, with care, with vision, even a bottle can become a dancer in the wind. And so the garden breathes with movement, its beauty not only rooted in soil but carried on air. Here, amid spinners and flowers, the ordinary has been lifted into poetry, a gentle reminder that joy, like the wind, is always moving, always near.